Did you know that VHS are actually making quite the comeback? I know, you are watching this video in 2024, but even myself as a big fan of 4K and Blu-ray media, I've started to grab some cool VHS tapes as well. I want to talk about why this market is having this resurgence and what I think it means for the larger physical media market, comparing it to some of what happened with music in their physical media, because I think it's actually a very good thing. So yeah, I've been collecting a few VHS tapes lately. Whenever I find something cool like Hellraiser, a horror movie, or like movies I grew up on, E.T., this Jaws 3 VHS, those have been really cool, kind of more as display pieces. I'm honestly not really watching them, although I know some people out there in the hardcore VHS collectors are actually watching these tapes. For me, it's more about display, nostalgia. They're a cool piece of my collection. But you may have noticed that even some recent films like Terrifier, they've had new VHS releases which are actually playable. In Walmart right now, in the year 2024, is selling a Terrifier 2 VHS tape as part of their new Bloody Disgusting section that they have in a lot of their stores. So it's 2024, and we've got brand new VHS tapes being sold at Walmart, and they're flying off the shelves. So not only are there new tapes being made, but there's a lot of great artists out there. One who I really liked is Death by VHS, and they sent me some stuff to show you guys because their artwork, and this is a big reason why I think this is all coming back, it's very nostalgic. It pulls from like the 80s and the 90s. There's a certain aesthetic there that I think people my age and even a younger generation, Gen Z, are really looking back towards. As everything becomes so digital, we're looking for something simpler, something more analog, something that really connects with you. And so there's a lot of artists who have been making these really cool tapes, like for modern movies like Thanksgiving. Here's one of the examples here. It's got the Embassy Home Entertainment. I mean, these things look incredible on a shelf. Here's Talk to Me, another awesome piece of art that I'm going to be displaying. We've got Hereditary, one of my favorite movies of all time. So this was a really cool piece. And all of it is like, it's all this nostalgic look and feel. It's that VHS tape, Late Night with the Devil. Like, can't you imagine seeing this on the shelf at a Blockbuster or at your video store? And yeah, again, like Evil Dead 2, like, is this art really even like from the movie? No, but it's about that aesthetic. It's about just getting that look and feel that we love from the 80s, from the 90s. Here's one for The Witch. And then, hey, I mean, this one's never even had a physical media release, but Barbarian on VHS. So, you know, at least I've got that. Paragon Video Productions, a Death by VHS release, you know, the R rating on the back. It's got all the different kind of like snapshots and screenshots. I mean, everything about these is super cool. Like, and it's, you know, then you've got Terrifier, these real tapes, and, you know, these tapes like this, E.T. and Jaws 3, you know, these tapes are selling for good money, and there's a big collector's market for them, and they're selling as fast as DVDs, Blu-rays, and anything else on eBay right now. There's a huge market on apps like Whatnot, where I sell a lot of stuff. Huge VHS market. So, you know, truly, like, what's going on? Where did this resurgence come from between artists and nostalgia and a certain aesthetic of the 80s and the 90s and just wanting to go back to a simpler time? But it's all good. But what does it truly mean for like other formats, for the DVD, Blu-ray, 4K formats? And is this a good sign? And personally, I think it really is. The way that I'm thinking about this is similar to the vinyl resurgence. This VHS resurgence is like vinyl in the way that people listen to vinyl because they say they like the quality or the warmth of it, but they also they like the cracks and the pops and the hisses, and they like taking this old format and it feels very nostalgic, and you put it on the player and it spins, and you know, there's a certain like there's a certain feel to playing a vinyl record on a record player that I think people missed with streaming services and MP3s and iPods and everything that's come out in the last 20 years. And so there was this resurgence of vinyl first, which is interesting. It wasn't CDs, it was vinyl. We went back to like the oldest physical format. Then what you saw, interestingly enough, is that the vinyl sales went up, and then CD sales went up. So it kind of fed into, okay, vinyl went up, and there's that physical media in a niche group who really got into vinyl. And then that got kind of mainstream, and then people got back into CDs because CDs were easier to play. More people had CD players than vinyl record players. They're smaller, easier to store. You know, I think there was a reason, and then eventually, you know, people moved into CDs, and now CDs honestly, they sell way better than they probably should in the age of music streaming. So what I'm thinking possibly is like the VHS resurgence has something to do with a want for physical media and people going back to the format that they're familiar with. And VHS has, it's got its tracking on it, and it's the same, hiss and pops and all the little elements of watching a VHS that we all grew up on, the imperfections that people love are evident here. And people will buy a tape like E.T. I bought this from Scarecrow Video when I was out there in Seattle. And they'll play that, and that is how they'll watch the movie. There's this old school retro feel to it. And we've seen retro gaming come back, and certainly retro record players and vinyl. In all of these areas of entertainment, we've seen retro become very popular. And so what I could kind of see happening is there's this VHS resurgence, which is going to get a lot of people back interested in physical media who maybe haven't been interested in physical media since the late 90s when VHS was a thing. You're going to get collectors back, and you're going to get Gen Z who never experienced this. Their interest in VHS blows my mind, but I get it. It's the same as cassette tapes and vinyl and CDs. They want something physical in their hands, something they connect to. And they grew up in a world, especially if you're under the age of 20 right now, you grew up in a world where you never really had anything physical. Everything was always digital. So I think these people will start to buy the VHS tapes, and that reignites an interest, right? And then you'll start to see like what happened with CDs. I think you'll start to see them branch out into DVDs, into Blu-ray, possibly into 4K, especially some of the limited editions. And there's places like A24 that are making these beautiful limited editions. And obviously all our boutique labels like Arrow and Shout and Scream Factory and the Criterion Collection will get more steam, and Kino Lorber and Umbrella Entertainment and Via Vision over in Australia. And there's so many people. TerrorVision, which is a great label to go back to those nostalgic video days. I mean, I'm probably missing somebody, but Vinegar Syndrome, of course. I mean, there's so many that I think those people that are into VHS right now in that Gen Z group and older millennials, younger millennials, like that are getting back into it, will then find these labels, and they'll find sort of like vinyl kind of led to an increase in CDs eventually. They'll find DVD and Blu-ray because it's more accessible. It's easier to get a Blu-ray player than a VHS player right now. Most people already have the setup. They have the TVs. You don't have to go find an old CRT TV or something to enjoy it. Like, there are some barriers to like truly enjoying VHS on a format. So right now I think it's very like a nostalgic collectible art kind of area that will eventually develop a taste for, hey, I'd really like to get something I could play, or something that was maybe a little bit higher quality. As much as I love my VHS tapes, I'd love to check out this movie on Blu-ray or 4K. And so that's kind of my theory as to what's happening. And I'm telling you, when it comes to physical media movies, I've been tracking what's happening in music for years. And I think that the music industry is probably a solid 5, if not 10 years ahead of movies and TV, because if you think about when Napster hit and LimeWire and all that stuff and all the like illegal downloading, and then that turned into iTunes and iPods, which then turned into Apple Music and Pandora and Spotify and all these streaming apps, those things all came way before movies and TVs were there. Like, we're not even talking really a big streaming push until the mid 2010s. Like, realistically, Netflix was still dominating. Even up until 2020 and COVID, we didn't have like all these different streaming services that we have now. Even Disney Plus is only a few years old. So we're really like behind the game. And so I've been watching that evolution of music and what happened there. And I'm now seeing the same thing in movies. And I've been talking about it. And VHS almost feels more like vinyl to me. And then we'll start to see those CD sales pick up, which equals DVDs, Blu-rays. And I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 3 to 5 years, you actually see, after DVD sales and Blu-ray sales really dip to a certain point, they're going to flatline, and then I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back for sure. Physical media movie sales start to come back the way that music has, because there is going to be that correction. We're overcorrecting right now where everyone's going digital, everyone's going streaming, and then it will correct back to a kind of average level at some point. But I don't like a head-to-head comparison with music because they are so far ahead. Because Napster and stuff, that's out in 1999, 2000. They're 25 years into the world of digital music and in music over the internet and streaming. And we are not there in movies. We're about maybe 10 years into that in movies. So give it some time. But I think that this is actually a really interesting sign of how the market is shifting. And it's an interesting way to get a younger generation who didn't even grow up with video stores, barely grew up with DVD, really grew up in a world of streaming and digital, get them back interested in physical media. And I'm telling you, I have more younger people contacting me every day that surprise me so much, but that are getting into this world and wanting to build their own film collections and having fun with it. And I think it's a really encouraging sign for movies and physical media as a whole. So I would say, if this is your gateway in and you love VHS tapes, check out thrift stores, check out sellers on places like Facebook Marketplace, Mercari. You can find great VHS tapes still for, pennies. I go to Bull Moose, right? This Hellraiser VHS that I picked up, which, not the original, but a cool late 90s Hellraiser VHS, 30 cents. I mean, that's a really cool collectible piece if you're a horror fan. And then, of course, you can find stuff like Terrifier, or you can go to incredible artists like Death by VHS. You can get, Barbarian, The Witch, Late Night with the Devil, these really, really cool collectible display art pieces that, really bring you back to a different time in film and movies, in a time that I'm excited to see come back. I love that style of artwork, and I love that it's having a resurgence, and I'm definitely finding more interest in it myself, even as I've collected a lot of stuff on Blu-ray and 4K. There's very little that on a weekly basis, and I'm like, I need that. I've built a collection, so now it's kind of like, can I find cool collectible nostalgic pieces for my collection? And that's really what VHS is. So thanks for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe for all the latest here on physical media, movies, Blu-ray, collecting, just movies in general. I really appreciate it. And of course, check me out on Instagram. All my social media links are in the video description, as well as right here at the QR code. And support those artists. Death by VHS. Try to find that Terrifier VHS at Walmart. Shop some local stores if you've got local pawn shops or thrift stores, or if you have a Bull Moose type store near you, Scarecrow Video. Go in, grab some VHS, go VHS shopping. It's actually a really fun activity, and you can find some super, super weird stuff that's never been released on DVD, and those are kind of the holy grails. So go find them. Go have fun with it. I mean, this has been really fun for me recently getting into this world. So thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Stay healthy out there, and I'll talk to you soon.